Hi, hello, and welcome everybody to my August wrap-up. I'm in the mood for fall. The weather is kind of in the mood for fall, but also it's 25 degrees, so not really. So, let's talk about the month of August and all the books I read, because there were a lot. I read 25 books. If you're thinking, Vivian, that doesn't look like 25 books, you would be correct. Because only 8 of those books were physical, the rest was Kindle Unlimited. And that was a fun time. So let's talk about each and every single book that I read last month. After last month's wrap-up, you guys kind of let me know that you'd like me to talk about every single book, so that is what we are doing. Again, we're going in chronological order, so buckle up, get yourself something to drink, because 25 books is a lot. We're gonna be here for a while. The first book I read was Out of the Gates by Elsie Silver. This is a fun one. This is the novella in the, what's it called? Rose Hill. The first book in that series is Off to the Races, and this is the novella that's kind of like the story that's even before everything. This is the story of how, like, I think the dad and the mom found each other. It's a whole thing. It's cute. It's a novella, pretty short. Small town romance is like on point as always with Elsie Silver's books. For a novella, it was cute, but I felt a little like something was missing. Of course, like, it's a novella. It was pretty short. It was kind of an insta love situation, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But then again, it's a novella, so what am I to expect, right? That was the first book I read last month, and it was fun. It was a good one. I think I rated it like a 3.5 stars, which is still very good. The second book that I read was also the first physical book that I read, and that is Rootbound by Tara Dewitt. And let me tell you, this was not it. This wasn't it. I rated this a 1 star. I was not a fan. I was expecting small town romance cuteness, and I somehow didn't get it. It was a weird one. So, our main character, I think her name is Tate. Yeah, Tate is a photographer, and she just like got out of a divorce with her husband, and she is then like contracted by her like workplace to work at this farm, which just so happens to be her dad's farm. And she goes to this farm, and then there's this dude who kind of works on this farm, and he like works there a lot. He's like into the family, and he's been integrated. He's been there for like years. They kind of raised him, and it's just overall a little weird. I didn't enjoy it. I don't know what it was that made me be like, ugh, iffy. There were so many like remarks on the side that I just kind of fell out of the reading experience so much while reading the book, and I did not have a good time. The conversations for me just seemed really, really scripted. I didn't enjoy it. I felt myself reading the book. Also, like, the last sentence did not make me happy, because it is, and that I think is how you make an exit. In this book, she talks to you as the reader so much. So she like breaks the third wall, which I hate so much. I don't want that in books. I don't like that. I don't like when the main character talks to me as a reader. And that's what happened in this book so much, which is why I fought so hard not to DNF it. I was like this close multiple times, but then I pulled through. And honestly, I wish I hadn't. After that, I read the 9-month contract because I needed some romance that was gonna make me happy. This did its job. It was a very weirdly spicy book. Let me tell you what it's about. We have this guy who lives on like a hillside with his brothers, and they just like live their very secluded life with like their little farm-ish place. That's where they are. And then our male main character, he wants a child. Okay, but he doesn't want a girlfriend, wife, partner, whatever. He just wants a child. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna look for a surrogate, but he's very picky. So then he finds this girl who's like, I want to be a surrogate, but I don't make the requirements because I am not skinny enough to be a surrogate. So those two make a deal, and they kind of like end up together to like make this baby, essentially. I did enjoy some parts of it, especially like the romance and the family aspect of like this hilltop life, which was very cute. I did not really enjoy other parts. It was a little like too much on the spicy side for me. I would have wished it was a little less, but at the same time, why am I complaining, right? This is what people read the books for. So if you are interested in that, pick up the 9-month contract. It's a cute romance. It's good. After that, I picked up this. This is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. It is a cute book. It is Greek mythology, in case you cannot tell. This is the story of Ariadne. Ariadne is the daughter of King Minos of Crete, I believe. I'm always a little confused what the Greek island is called in English, because I know what it's called in German, and we pronounce it Kreta, which is a little different, so I'm always just like, I'm confused. Anyway, she is also the sister of the Minotaur, and this is just like her story. It's the Greek myth told, again, a little bit different, giving the characters more feelings, more emotions, of course. And it is out of the perspective of Ariadne, which I think the original myth was obviously not out of the perspective of Ariadne, because who cares for the girls, right? Who does? If you're as obsessed with Greek mythology as I am, you're gonna love this. I want to read every single other book by her. I own every single other book by her, except for Hera. I still need to order that, but I am very happy with this, and I thought that this was a like kind of good and fresh view. If you like other books, like, for example, Song of Achilles or Circe, similar vibes. Very, very similar vibes. Very nice and lyrical writing. I enjoyed this book a lot. I had a good time. I need to look the next book up because I don't remember it. The Takeover. The thing is, I read what the book is about. I still don't remember reading it. So it's a billionaire romance, which is like arranged marriage and other stuff. I rated this a 1.5 stars, which leads me to believe that I didn't like the book, which also explains why I don't remember the book, because it was just another like billionaire romance story that probably like hit the spot a little bit. I rated this 4 out of 5 chili peppers, so if you're looking for something that's spicy, it's probably this one, alright? But I don't remember much. It's a classic arranged marriage where he's like marrying her because her father is kind of selling her to save the company. Yeah, it's a thing. We're just gonna move on because I don't remember this book at all. After this, I went down my favorite rabbit hole of the month. We're gonna talk about all of these books combined as a series because I read the Broken Bonds series. Those are 6 books, and they are so much fun. Okay, the idea behind these books is you have a kind of magical society where people have soulmates. And each soulmate group has like one central soulmate person. And then that central bond, what they call it, has different people that they are bonded with. In our case, our female main character, I don't remember her name. She has 5 bonded guys that each have a different magical ability. So our female main character ran away ages ago and she's hiding, and we don't exactly know why. All we know is that she's hiding because she wants to protect her bonds. She doesn't know what's happening, but they catch her in the beginning of the book, bring her home, and then, like, they try to understand what's happening to her, and they're also like, well, we need to kind of bond, because once you bond, your power gets a little stronger. So that's the whole thing. It's a reverse harem romance fantasy story that is extremely spicy, but also so much fun. This is so much fun. I had the best time. I want all of these books as paperbacks so bad. They are on my wish list. I want them, and I need them, and that's all I care about. I read like 3 books in a day for each of these. I finished this entire series after 2 days. I needed this in my life. I was in a horrible reading slump, and I picked up this series, and I have not put the books down ever since. Like, I've been reading ever since I read these. These got me out of a reading slump. So if that is not a sign for you to pick them up, I don't know what is. So I'm gonna just like quickly go over them. The books are Broken Bonds, Savage Bonds, Blood Bonds, Forced Bonds, Tragic Bonds, and Unbroken Bonds, which is the 6th one. And now let's move on. Because after this, I read Meet Me Halfway, which is a neighbor's single mom age gap romance. I think that's the best way I can describe it. She moves into this new, like, living complex, and he is her neighbor. He's a little older than her, and it's kind of just their romance, because he's actually a very nice guy, and she's kind of, like, struggling with money, and it's overall just a cute romance, very quick, nothing major, nothing outstanding. I had a good time. It scratched the itch at the time, which is all it's supposed to do and all it needs to do. So I think that's all I'm gonna say about it because I don't remember much else. I'm so bad at this. You would think that for the fact that this is literally my job, I would be better at remembering the books. After this, I read a book that I enjoyed very much. This is Spookily Yours. It's kind of like a fall Halloween witchy romance. I also want to get this book as a paperback. Very excited for it. This was cutesy. This was fun. I enjoyed this. It's just a little bit of like a witchy magic tale that I just had a good time with. Essentially, the main storyline is that our female main character gets a new cat and that cat turns out to be a demon. So she then kind of like tries to help him to figure out why he is a demon. At the same time, he has a like magical task that he's not telling her about. It's overall fun. The romance is the most important thing about this. This story would also very much work if she weren't a witch and he wasn't a demon. It would be fine. So I would sort this into romance rather than fantasy, but it is like a very romantic-y book. So it's cute, it's fun, it's cozy. If you want to read this for fall, I would highly recommend it. I enjoyed this book. This was fun. After that, I read a romance book. I read The Brightest Light of Sunshine. I remember really enjoying this book, but let me look it up so that I don't tell you any lies. So what I would like to mention before I get into this is this book deals with the aftermath of like SA, which can be a very triggering topic for some people. So our main character is just like at the point where she's like, okay, maybe I'm ready after all these horrible things that happened. Maybe I am ready to start like dating again, to go into the dating pool and to be like, hi, I'm here. Maybe there's somebody out there for me. So that's what she does. But first she decides like, maybe I should start with like being friends with somebody first. So she meets Sam, who I think he's a tattoo artist, and he takes care of his little sister who's 4 years old. It's adorable. This little sister, it's kind of giving single dad, but not really because the mother is in the picture, but she's also like has a problem with substance abuse. So that's a whole other thing that's going on. But overall, this story is just cute. It's a romance. It's a little more like they're younger. They're about my age, like 22. I think she's 22. I'm 23, if you were wondering. The two of them become friends, and he's trying to kind of like teach her, just because she had bad experiences, that not all people are bad. It's adorable, it's cute, it made me cry so much. It made me experience the feelings. So this, I would say, is a very fun, cute romance that is also like a little bit traumatizing. Just a little bit. After that, I read a physical book again. What? Me? I talked about this in a video that I made, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. This is Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. It's a story about a siren in a world where being a siren is actually not allowed. But she's still there pretending to be like a non-magic person, just existing, but at the same time she wants to provide for her family. So she goes to school, gets a job, and her job is to protect the prince. It's very fun, very cute, romantic-y. The romance is adorable. This was so much fun, and this edition is stunning, so I don't know what else to tell you. It was a good book, a fun book. It kind of got me back into my fantasy romance love for reading, so this is a good book. You should definitely be picking it up. I enjoyed it a lot. Next, I read this. These are the Hurricane Wars. I didn't like this book. I DNF'd it, actually. However, let me tell you what it's about so that maybe it can be the book for you. This is about a never-ending war between two nations. One of them has these shadow wielders, and that's like their kind of power. They want to like turn this world into like darkness and like win the war, right? And then we have her, and she's like a light wielder, and she's the last of her kind. There's been no one like her for years, so she's set out to like fight in this war. And then she realizes that maybe this is not her war to fight because maybe she's not even part of this nation. It was weird. I still don't know exactly what's going on in this book, and I didn't enjoy it. Maybe I'm not the best person to talk to you about this book, but it is stunning and beautiful, so at least it's got that going for it. I guess. Let's talk about the next book, which was actually a lot more fun. This is Not Another Love Song. It's good. It's a fun book. I enjoyed reading it. It kind of like got me out of a meltdown, which that's always good, right? We don't want a meltdown. We don't want to be overstimulated too much. So we read, which helps. This book helped. It's about two musicians who work at like an orchestra together, and he is also in like a classical quartet band, and they like cover fun modern songs. He comes from this long family of like classical musicians. However, he plays the cello. It's fun. It's a cute romance. Although at some point in between I was like not understanding their chemistry. I felt like the chemistry was a little bit forced. I still enjoyed the book, but for some reason I thought that this was not the most natural romance that I've ever read. It was weird at some points, and sure, I enjoyed the book. It was funny and still very cute, but at the same time I was like, do you really need each other, or do you just need therapy? That's the thing. However, very fun, very spicy, and if you rate it, you will probably never look at a cello the same way again. Now, if you've never looked at a cello in your life, maybe that's not a problem, but for me, I've actually been in an orchestra. I've played the viola for years, and I definitely cannot look at a cello the same way. But fun, and spicy, and good. After that, I read Homebound by Meredith Trapp. I did not realize this is the second book in a series, but I completely ignored it. I did not realize that there needed to be any other story. This is the second book, where our female main character is a bull rider, and he is a hockey player, but he's kind of in the off season, and they're just like mingling. They have been really, really, really good friends for years. Now he is a dad, and he comes back after not seeing her for years because he has always been obsessed with her. And I love these kind of stories where he's always been obsessed with the female main character and she's been like, really? The only thing I find very like unnatural about it is the way that she's always thought of him as like a friend, but it makes sense that now that he's come back after like 4 years of not seeing each other, that she then sees more in him. It's funny. I can encourage you to read this. It's cute. Small town, cowboy, romance, of course. After that, I read Scarred Souls, which is like the 4th book in a series. I enjoy this series. It always gets my mind off of things. I think this is called the Team Zulu series or something. It's always about some like ex-Marines. I think in this case he used to fly something like planes. He was a pilot. I don't remember. I think he was a pilot, yeah. And he comes to this little town in Mexico where trafficking is like a thing, and he is trying to talk this girl into helping him when she is the daughter of like the enemy. The one thing I did not realize about this is that it is the first book in a duology, and I did not actually get my entire romance because it's just half a book. It's just half a story. I was left on a cliffhanger, which I did not enjoy. So that kind of like made me actually hate the book. But the story itself was fun. At some point I realized that there wasn't going to be an end to it. So I can only encourage you to read this exact book once the second one is out. Because honestly, you don't want the disappointment that comes with just reading the first book. It's not fun. After that, I read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. Now this was also in my last video, so if you want to have the full scoop on the next 3 books, I will give it to you. Now, this is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. It's a romance that is a football romance, American football, just for all of us to understand. It's cute, it's adorable. She is his assistant and he is kind of like grumpy and doesn't know how to talk to people, so she quits because she's like, these are no working conditions that I can work with. She quits, and he comes begging for her to come back. He then says, okay, maybe you don't come back as my assistant, how about you come back as my wife? And she's like, what is going on? He needs a visa. He wants to stay in the US, he's Canadian, and he needs a visa, and he doesn't want to continue to play football anymore, so he can't get a work visa, right? So what he does is then actually like marry her, and that's their romance. So it's kind of like a marriage of convenience, but also like kind of like working boss, also football player romance. It's adorable. It's cute. I had a very good time. This was like a 4.5 stars for me. I really, really enjoyed this book. This was so much fun. After that, I read the most disappointing book of the month, which was Ruthless Vows. It wasn't necessarily the most disappointing, but I was disappointed because I had high hopes, and I was disappointed because I didn't enjoy the book. I felt like it was very repetitive. It was similar to the first book. Again, I read it in the reading vlog, so if you want to check out my full opinions on it, please do. I just didn't enjoy it. The first book was so good, and then this came along and I was just not feeling it. It starts with the amnesia trope, which is the worst trope in the history of tropes. I just did not enjoy the book. I had to really force myself to finish reading it. I just finished it because I was doing the video, because I loved the first book so much. I actually did not like it, so we're just gonna put it aside and go on to the next one. During this reading vlog, I also read 2 mafia romances. So I read Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride. Do I remember anything about these 2 books? No. They are book 2 and 3 because I realized that the first book I had actually already read at some point in my life. I don't know when, but I did. Don't know what's going on. Let me look them up. The second book, Twisted Emotions, is like an arranged marriage mafia thing. I'm not gonna tell you much about them because they just, if you want them to, they will scratch the itch they need you to scratch, okay? These are fun. These are good. They are entertaining. They're not incredible books, okay? That's not what they are, but they scratch the itch, and that's all you need. And then the third one is kind of like a kidnapping situation where he kidnaps her before she can get married, and then she's like his captive. It's a thing that's going on. I did not like the third book as much. I liked the second book. I thought it was fun. The third book was very weird, and it was also like bordering on like the consent line, and that's where I draw my line. Like, my line is the consent line, and anything that's like not on that line and not consensual, I'm like, this is not for me. Now, after this, I read Business Casual. This was my favorite book of the month. This was a 5-star book. I love this entire series so much. This is the 4th book in the Love Light Farm series. It is giving the perfect fall, like October, September vibes. So it was the perfect season to read it in, and I absolutely loved this. So Charlie, our main character, he is like a corporate guy from New York. No, and he is the brother of the main character in the first book. And he is then in town because she's going on a vacation. He's in town taking care of the Christmas tree farm. And while he does that, he kind of like tries to start a little fire between him and our female main character, who is the local tattoo artist. But it's also like a whole family thing, like her whole family is part of this series as well. It's super cute, super adorable. Their chemistry was like off the charts. I had such a great time. This was a book where after I finished it, I was realizing that I actually love reading. Sometimes when I read, I realize, okay, this is a book that makes me realize that reading is my favorite thing in the world. And that's what this book did. It's an adorable, cute, small town, fall vibes romance that I can promise you you're gonna love. If you pick up any books soon, let it be the Love Light Farm series. Let it be this one. Or the other ones. Because honestly, this entire series, so good. So good. Believe me, trust me, pick it up. Let's talk about the last book of the month. This is Scorpion by Avina Sengrace. I do not remember this book, and it's not been long, okay? It's been like maybe a week since I finished this. It is the first book of the Exodus series. This was a weird story. She has this childhood love, okay? And they were together throughout high school, and then something happens with her family and they have to like kind of break up. She goes to live with the army. Her entire family dies, and then she comes back, and the guy who she was with, he rehires her as like his personal security because he's kind of doing some sketchy things, and like he's in the mafia as well, okay? So it's just their romance, but at the same time, it's also a little weird. Sure, again, it scratched the itch I wanted to scratch. But at the same time, I was just like, this is weird. Something here is not adding up. It was fun. It was cool at points, but at the same time, I was just like, I was done with it. I was just reading this because I wanted to read something and nothing on this shelf looked promising. So I was reading this and it was fine. That was this book. I honestly, like, I just had to look it up again. I did not remember much. And that was also the last book that I wanted to talk to you about. Please, if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to leave a like and comment the favorite book that you read last month, because as always, very interested in what you read. And I will now go back and put all these books on the shelf. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll say goodbye to you. Have a good day. Bye. I feel like last month you could tell that my mental health was just not there. The amount of Kindle Unlimited books that I read, it was a lot. It was just a lot, but they were fun. A lot of these are very fun. And also like very fast to read. Even though they kind of had like 400 pages each, they were very fun. For some reason, a lot of the books that I have physical copies of, I did not like a lot. But that's fine, I guess. I think? Not sure? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I even saying? Why am I even here? I'm gonna go. Bye.
That we said goodbye too soon.